Back to the show here. Longhorns grip and rip. Horns win 30-27. John Moody 5 TD passes. Vinny Galano 3 TD passes and a career high 79 yards passing.
And a career high of messages sent to Mohan.
Well, that's trying to Avram who sent me the messages. Rob Allen 3 TD crabs, by the way. In GNR first, how crippling is this loss for them?
I don't think it's crippling in the slightest. I think it just reels them back down to reality, the same way the game against the Dans did as well. They went into both of these games really underestimating their teammates and got taken for a loop. Longhorns took this game very seriously to the point where as the game became closer and closer, you saw Dave Allen was sitting out the whole game. Vince Mancini was snapping in his place so that they really had all their horses firing at once and making the best of the team that they had.
Wouldn't cows be the proper term to use because they're longhorns, like steer, as opposed to horses?
Boo!
I'm just saying.
It makes sense, but it's not the proper expression.
Okay, Sean Avram sends me a message earlier today and says, Vinny Galano and I are...
So I says to Mo,
Yeah, he goes, Vinny Galano and him are the best 1-2 punch for a quarterback tandem. Which could be true.
Because most teams only have one quarterback.
Right, exactly. Which could be true, right? I mean, if they have a backup quarterback. But do you like that system, the 1-2 punch, or do you think they should just go with Galano all the way through and have Avram only come in if Vinny's struggling?
Between the two, Sean Avram is definitely the more natural of QBs. However, with that being said, I don't know how that works out with just playing between the two, having Vinny come in as a receiver and having his receiver rating. Mm-hmm. The fact that Vinny tends to spread the ball out a little bit more and really doesn't struggle to get open, break free of the rusher, and find that open man. Despite the fact that Sean Avram has the experience on this team, I think that Vinny throwing the ball adds a different element, especially in a division where it's very, very difficult to contain Vinny.
Galano has the highest passing completion of all time as a QB.
Yeah, okay. When he QB'd in spring 2014, he had the highest completion ratio of 79%.
We'll talk more about the Longhorns and our bubble teams here, but a little too late here. I know they've gone on a streak, but it might be too late.
I would have liked to have seen them play like this earlier on in the season. That being said, I don't think it's too late considering they are still on the bubble. They're going to need a lot of help.
A lot of help.
But even the fact that they're not going 2-8 or 3-7 is enough for this not to be a waste of a season.
It's all about the spring season for them.
Yeah.
May 17th, by the way, for those who are curious to know. Who's in, who's out? Let's talk about the playoff picture now, as we are now literally the last few days of the regular season before we begin the March Madness next weekend here. A look at the bubble teams. We'll go with Conference A first. And look, right now, more or less, we have 3 teams for 2 spots. Albeit, though, some teams can move up a little bit higher than where they are positioned as we speak. But the 3 teams we'll talk about at the bottom of the division, Team Ethnic in 11, LDD in 12, Trap Stars 13. They're on the outside looking in here. So 3 teams...
Favorite.
Well, yeah, right. Anyway, the point is right now, those 3 teams, GM.
And just for those of you who are listening right now compared to those of you watching at home, those of you watching can see it on the screen. Those of you listening are having it recapped by Mo.
Thank you very much. Looking at those 3 teams right now, Ethnic with 9 points, LDD and Trapstars with 8 points. 2 out of the 3 will get in. Right now, GM, which 2 teams do you like the most?
I think it's going to end up being status quo, considering the matchups that we have coming up as well. LDD are finally starting to get it and understand where they were winless for so long, and they're finally starting to be what we've hyped them up to be. Trap Stars have been circling the drain really, really hard right now. So looking at the 3, and Team Ethnic as well have been consistent. So looking at the 3 matchups we have right now, as Eagle changes the screen.
Sorry.
That's okay. We have Lay Duck Dynasty playing 69ers, which is not a favorable matchup.
It could be a high-scoring game, though.
Trap Stars are playing Black Ice.
Which is one of our games of the week.
Which is one of our games of the week, and puts the future in their hands because Black Ice have been really, really struggling the past few weeks. And the 3rd team on the docket, which
Team Ethnic
against
Zoo,
will be playing Zoo, Mo's favorite. But I think the fact that it's not going to matter as much.
And Zoo has a lot to play for playoff position
Correct,
as well.
yes.
But, at least I look at these three teams here. I think LDD impresses me the most because they can put up points with the best of them. I mean, watching them playing Hebert on Wednesday night.
They're not a bad team.
They're not a bad team at all.
Struggled. They have a QB who plays for Team Canada.
Yeah, and he throws a fantastic defense.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think that we're only finally starting to see this team's potential, and it's a little too late. Otherwise, we would be seeing them in the 6th spot or the 7th spot or the 8th spot.
And as funny as this sounds right now, LDD could jump up to 10 with some help along the way, or 11th, pardon me, with some help along the way here. And I think for a team like Trapstars, unfortunately, what has hurt them has been the quarterback play, which we've re-emphasized numerous times throughout the season. And I think that's what's going to destroy their hopes in getting the playoffs.
At the end of the day, this is a quarterback-centric league. It's a very offensive-driven
They have a great defense, though. Awesome defense, but you just can't produce points.
It's true.
I don't know what happened with this team, but that's how it is. Conference B. Brothers Longhorns, of course, they're the two teams on the outside in 13th and 14th with 7 points apiece here. The four teams that are currently holding the last 4 spots here: at 9, Show Me Your TDs; at 10, Dragons; at 11, Lobster Dinner; and 12, A Squad. Essentially, from
it's a
9,
4-way tie right now.
Yeah, essentially from 9 through 14, 2 points separates those 6 teams looking for those 4 spots. GM, I asked you the same question before. As ice slides through the court.
Black ice.
Black ice, I'd say. Little love over there for black ice. As Al asked you the same question before. Which of the 4 teams right now do you like going into this last weekend of play?
I think Brothers, the fact that they haven't even they've had trouble fielding a full roster, they're starting to become figured out. It's going to be a little bit difficult for them. They're also playing Dragons, who are also playing for their lives, and I think that Simon Dagenet is going to come in very strong against this team. The other bubble teams as well right now, you have Show Me Your TDs.
Which had a golden opportunity to clinch last week, and they failed to do so.
It was admittedly a difficult game for them. That being said, Show Me Your TDs are playing Les Affreux, who have also been up and down this season, but are mathematically eliminated. They started off really strong and then hit a slump. So I think Show Me Your TDs would be the safe bet in this. Lobster Dinner, A Squad, 2 teams. A Squad are playing Whispers, who are a really, really big enigma. And Lobster Dinner are playing Sandlot Saints, who have struggled against mid-tier teams, but still managed to come up with big wins when it mattered most.
You think Longhorns have a chance, though, sneak in?
I do. Especially considering the other team that they're in contention against, the Brothers, I don't think are going to make it in.
I think we jinxed the Brothers. We really did. When they were 3-0, we thought, hey, maybe this team could be the darling of the league, and not so much.
Nope.
Not so much right now. Yes, no, you think Longhorns will definitely get in, yes, but which team do you think from the 4 holding the playoff spot will be on the outside?
So right now, I think if it's the most likely, it will probably be A Squad just because of their divisional ranking right now. Because we're going to go into a 3 or more tiebreaker. I think that their divisional record is really going to hurt them.
Looking at the top 4 now for each conference, the race for the top 4, do we see any changes for Conference A right now? In A, Coyotes 1, 6 Fast Guys 2, Shmoney 3, Cream Team in 4. However, 2 points separate 1 through 4. In Conference B, which we'll get to very shortly here, but Conference A right now, there could be a lot of movement going into this last weekend of play.
I think we potentially will see more movement in Conference B than Conference A. I can almost guarantee that it will finish 1, 2, 3, 4. Coyotes, 6 Fast Guys, Shmoney, and Cream Team. Matt Kirouac has just entered the studio, and Mokan, who has a bizarre look on his face, is because I will be joined not by Vince Nardone in the Div 1, Div 2 podcast, but I will have a special guest, Matt Kirouac.
Okay, fair enough. So Conference B then, we'll look at that right now. Game Changers at 1 with 16 points, Grip and Rip in 2 with 14. Shamrocks, big game coming up for them against Game Changers and 13 points, and Backyard Bullies with 12 points. So you think there's going to be more movement with the top 4 in that conference?
Without a doubt. I think that, especially with the potential that Shamrocks are playing Game Changers and Backyard Bullies, both Shamrocks and Backyard Bullies only have 6 wins compared to the 7 and 8 that Grip and Rip and Game Changers have. That's the most likely to have that shuffle in my mind, with either the Dans or Marco in the middle sneaking in there.
All right, if Shamrocks, and we'll make that pick later on, if Shamrocks beat Game Changers this weekend here, does that change your mind about where the Shamrocks stand in your eyes?
No. I think that they're a team that had a lot of potential, was very high on early on in the season, that have just failed to execute compared to the caliber they have, considering they have the Alexi brothers, considering they have Doug McKernan, considering they have Chris Paisano. They're good, but they're not as good as they should be. No disrespect. They haven't been playing up to it.
Well, let's go to the community wall here, where we reach out to our community friends out here. Brent Calendar, that pretty boy BC, I don't know what that means. Every year, Mo mentions a QB who isn't ready for primetime football. Who will it be? And GM, which middle pack team can make a run? Which we'll talk about afterwards. So answer the first question. No-name QB. Who could it be this year as we move into the March Madness?
The question is addressed to Mocon and not GM Collective.
Oh, collect your
So while you take this time to answer this tweet in, we'll look at the team. So middle of the pack, who is a QB who isn't ready for primetime football? I think I know who your answer is going to be.
Who do you think it is?
I think it's Vincent Richard.
Well, I've been on that I've been off that bandwagon for like 18 weeks.
That's exactly it. We're talking about someone who you
think he's on the outside though. I think he's talking about playoff teams.
Middle of the pack. Okay, so assuming it's a playoff team, who is the QB who is least likely to be ready for primetime football?
I'm gonna go with two guys. Mike Adana.
Disagree.
That was one of the names that popped into my head.
You gotta win those games. Mm-hmm. You gotta win those games last week. You had an opportunity to win that game last week. I think Frank K's primetime football. That's my team, man. The Zoo. That's how we roll.
Could we have a Forest Green shirt for Mo to wear?
I would wear it.
If you give Mo a jersey, he will wear it on the podcast. And I know that firsthand because Mo rocked a Love Cows jersey in 2010.
Thank you very much. That was a nice try. I still have it in my closet, by the way. And when I look at the other side of the bracket in terms of who can do it, look, I think Terrace Morsick's ready. 69ers, though.
Shea Harbor,
I like him, but he's too much of a deep ball thrower. And I just think that's going to hurt them when the games get much tighter and we can't have where they can't produce 40, 50 points a game.
Okay.
Those are the two quarterbacks I'm going to go with. I don't know if you agree with it or not. It's up to you.
So do you want me to answer Brent's question geared towards me, or
sure.
Is it leading into...
we can answer the question, and we'll go.
So going back to Brent's tweet, his question for me was, which middle of the pack team can make a run? And I said that without even looking at the screen. Which middle of the pack team can make a run? Obviously, Marco in the middle have the experience to go
Gordon
far.
Gordon Hogan and those guys.
Gordon Hogan, Matt Bashara, Eric Bashara, Alex Angeletti. They have the experience in this league. Middle of the pack team, punt returners were big, have fallen off a little bit. Eagle's opinion is recipe for disaster with a question mark. Off the top of my head, my two teams on each side are Marco in the middle and punt returners.
You can tweet us as well at EagleFPF, at GMCole44, at Moco19 for those who want to tweet in their questions. Speaking of the middle pack here, we're going to talk about risers and fallers here. Right now, in the middle of the pack of each conference, who could have a serious fall from where they're standing going to this last week and end up in a bad playoff matchup in 10 days' time?
Well, potentially, Show Me Your TDs are in a four-way tie. So mathematically, they can go from being ninth to being out. That would be the biggest fall, in my opinion, of that. Aside from that, I think it's going to hurt more if you're Team Ethnic or Lay Duck Dynasty, considering that there's 3 playoff spots for 2 teams, and if you fall, it's going to hurt the most because of the fact that you basically had an in against Trap Stars, who were doing so poorly early on.
I look at it this way, and look, we see that right now we know who in the middle pack the top tiers are. For a concentrate, Crisp, Niners are dangerous 5 and 6 seeds. No one won't play them in the first or second round of the playoffs here. On the flip side of things, here 2.5 Dans and Malud. Albeit, though, I'm not really into the Malud whole bandwagon thing here. I think 2.5 Dans are good. It's a matter of their matchup. Who do they get to face in the first round? Because if they face a team that can play their style and be patient, that's going to hurt them. But I think the middle pack right now, a team like Recipe for Disaster, saw them play on Tuesday, I think it was, or Monday, whenever it was at Hebert. Mm-hmm. They're okay, but not great in my mind. And I think they have some issues that they have to correct before they hit the playoffs in 10 days' time.
Fair.
We will go into the teams you don't want to face. Heading to Week 11, which playoff team do you wouldn't want to face going into the playoffs right now?
Well, considering I'm the 5 seed and seeing that the potential teams for me to
That's
face...
not named Crisp.
No, but you're saying who do I not want to face?
Yes.
So I don't want to face myself, obviously.
Well, of course
but
not.
Considering Crisp are poised to finish in 5th, the 3 potential games for them are Team Ethnic, Lay Duck Dynasty, and Trap Stars. of those three, the team that worries me the most is Lay Duck Dynasty, and it's the team that Crisp are poised to play right now. So hopefully, I personally hope for some movement. On the other side of the ball, finishing fifth, 2.5 Dans would, I think, have a bigger issue playing a team like A Squad Longhorns, or even show me your TDs, because I think their style of football will hit a bit more of a brick wall against them compared to, say, Dragons or Lobster Dinner or Brothers.
Ghost. That's the team that I wouldn't want to face. They can put up points for the best of them against 6 fast guys a few weeks ago. They lost by 4, but they can put up points.
I think they've been too inconsistent right now.
They have been.
They tend to play to their competition.
Right, but I think that if they are on point, everyone's playing on the same page, I wouldn't want to face him. Gab Wiseman, no one talks about that. I know in your last podcast, you're talking about Ben Leger. No one talks about him. Gab Wiseman's a guy that I think is fantastic, and I think should be looked upon as being a higher division player down the road, because he can play with the best of them. And
Agreed.
he does it with no trash talk, plays good football.
Yes, and I think he's definitely an exemplary player that more guys in this league should be looking towards.
Well,
I believe he's played in Div B. I know he's
yeah.
also played outdoors with Rickman and Cherry a little bit.
Eliminated teams. Looking at the teams in red for those who are watching this right now or who can't see it but want to know who they are. For A and B, of the teams not going to the postseason, which one surprised you that they're not in the playoff race this year?
In A, it's got to be TCO, a team that just came off a championship.
Yeah, but they had a terrible schedule, though. I knew they were going to be 1-8. They weren't a good team, though.
They just came off of a championship.
I blame Brent Calendar.
Yeah, he was hungover, man.
Okay. Aside from TCO, unfortunately, Southside Ballers don't come in as a disappointment. It's just a little bit. It hurts because had they come up with JC Mercil earlier rather than later, they might not have been in this position.
They gave a good game to the 69ers last week.
Correct.
Well.
Yes. On the other side, Certified Fly Guys, I've mentioned that ad nauseum that they should have been better than they were. Les Affreux. Eagles' pick is Whispers, who are buddies with a different QB, and it shows how big a difference a QB makes in this league.
I think when you look at the teams who aren't in the playoff race, BMS Goats had some parts to work with. This underachieved. On the flip side of things, Eskimo Brothers, albeit injuries curtailed their season, they weren't healthy at all from the get-go, and that hurt them from start to finish here. At Sandlot Saints, I know people were saying, well, they have a lot of McGill guys. Well, maybe they were in the wrong division. Should have been Div 5 this year as opposed to Div 4. But there are some teams that did surprise us. But TCO, as I told Brent Calendar, and he will admit to it, he will say, Mocon, you're absolutely right. We were terrible. Terrible.
With that in mind.
Anyway, let's go to our final 4 picks with the 5th game involved. How about that?
So it's
4 plus 1.
Okay.
Makes it 5. That's our math for the week. Final 4 picks. Here we go. Backyard Bullies 2.5 Dans. 6.5 points. Dans are favorites.
I think that I'm going to go with that as well. I think that the Bullies are going to get really, really frustrated at the type of football that the Dans play. It's going to really take them for a loop. You have 2 similar but different quarterbacks in Rich Humes and Joey Taylor, where they both tend to roll out and wait for something to develop and then throw the ball. But 2.5 Dans do better at it, so I'm going to go with them.
LDD, Niners, 3.5 points for Niners. People say, why such a small point spread? Well, they're going to score a lot of points.
Both teams are going to score a lot of points. I think that so long as Shea Harbour tends to spread out the ball and doesn't attack the deep ball every so often, they will come out ahead. But it will be a closer game than we think it is, especially for a potential 12 seed against a potential 5 or 6 seed.
Potential indeed. Zoo team, I think, half a point for Zoo. Let's pick them, essentially.
Yes, I'm going to go with Zoo on this one. I agree that it's going to be this close, considering these two teams know each other so well.
Game Changers Shamrocks, 1.5 for the Shamrocks.
I'm going to disagree with that. I think that the Shamrocks are going to pull away a little bit more on the Game Changers than this, considering that the Game Changers played a totally different style game, and they're going to go into this expecting a similar game and get a little bit surprised.
Black Ice, Trap Stars, 2.5 points for the Trap Stars. A win and you're in. Situation with some help.
I have no idea. Trap Stars have shown that they want to play football when it's convenient for them and not when it matters most. So despite the fact that it's a win-it-in game, it's all going to come down to the last play for them because it's just so inconsistent.
What did you learn on today's episode?
Well, Eagle learned that Matt Kirouac grows a nice beard.
Isn't that what I was supposed to say for Eagle? I asked you.
Why can't I say it?
Because it's, well, actually, it's not really pertaining to Mocon.
Correct, exactly.
What do you learn?
I learned that 4 + 1 = 5 when we're recapping games.
That is true. I learned that Matt Kurok's on your show later on tonight. 10:15.
Yeah,
10:15 Eastern
the truth.
Time. The truth.
It's the truth.
It is the truth. Coming up next, the real truth will come about with You Never Walk Alone with Terry Tam, Mocon Div 5 come up here. Thank you to Eagle, Dr. Eagle, Matt Kurak for who's here for some reason why he's here. Terry Tam, Peasy, and GM as always. And we will see you guys next week as we will preview the FPF playoffs for Div 4. Good morning, South Korea.